always affect decision making. They affect the amount of influence we have over decisions. What's our value for that? People usually say democracy, but I don't think that's true. In this case, this is a workplace, right? We each have a little cubicle, our area. You want to bring a picture of the person you live with or your son or whatever, right? A relative, you want to put it up on the wall. Who should make that decision? You should, right? Should we have a consensus of everyone on whether you can put up a picture of your spouse? Possibly? Okay. You're not going to like this. I've never had anybody say anything except, no, I should make that decision. And my response is, by yourself? And they say, yes. And my response is, like Stalin? And they say, yes. That decision should be made dictatorially. But then I ask, suppose you want to bring a boombox to your area, and you want to play heavy metal music. I apologize. You want to play heavy metal music, right? Now who should make the decision? If you say just you now, I'm going to throw this thing at you. The answer is the people who hear it. The people who would hear it. Everybody answers that. That no, it no longer makes sense for me to make the decision alone. Why? Because other people hear it. Be bothered by it. They should have a say in it. And the idea is that we should have a say in decisions in proportion to the degree that we're affected by it. And the value there is called self-management. Right? Doesn't mean we don't have experts. Doesn't mean we don't have expertise that enters into the decision. It means when it's time to consult our preferences, we consult the world's foremost expert. Who's the world's foremost expert in your preferences? You! I've had people say my mother. You are the world's foremost expert. Exactly. And so we do believe in expertise. We need expertise for the information that we're all going to use, and then we need expertise to dig up your preferences. We can't ask somebody else what you prefer. We have to ask you. So we want self-management. So that's another value. And what we have is solidarity, diversity, equity, and self-management. We also actually, believe it or not, want efficiency. Because efficiency means, for us, accomplishing what we desire to accomplish without wasting things that we desire. How many of you get nauseous when you hear the word efficiency? Come on. Nobody? A lot of people get, I can't believe so. All right, well, people tend to get nauseous when they hear the word efficiency, because efficiency in this society means accomplishing what the elite wants without wasting what the elite cares about. So it means accomplishing profits for them, reproducing the conditions of their keeping the profits, and it's not okay to waste machinery, it's not okay to waste resources, but it's perfectly okay to work a coal miner to death, because you can replace it, and they don't care about them. All right, so that makes us nauseous, but efficiency in our view doesn't do that, because we care about the coal miner, we care about it, right? Okay. So now we've got some nice values. Suppose Bill Clinton came in here. He could give you a speech in which he rattles off nice values. He could be more eloquent than I am, he could be more passionate than I am, and the values would be truly good values. And at least if I was sitting out there listening to him, I would be, again, nauseated. Why? Because the institutions that he advocates are contrary to the values that he says. And so I know that either he's confused or he's lying, one or the other, right? But in any case, the values alone mean nothing. You have to, well, they mean something. They're a useful guide. But you have to then provide institutions that accomplish them. Okay, so what's the alternative to capitalism? We want self-management. So we want a venue in which workers and consumers can express their preferences and manifest them in proportion to the degree that they're affected. That might mean majority vote, it might mean consensus, it might mean 2/3. None of those things are principled. Right? Those are all means to the end of self-management. They are not a principled thing. There is no such algorithm which always works. Dictatorship sometimes, right? So we want self-management. How can you have that? You have to have a place where workers can express their preferences, can deliberate them, can incorporate critical information, and can come to a conclusion with the appropriate level of influence for each. That's called a workers' council. And a consumer's council when it's about consumption, or collective consumption. So you need workers and consumers' council utilizing self-managed decision-making methods. It's already very different from what we have now. Next thing, we remunerate for effort and sacrifice. How long people work, how hard people work, and the onerousness of their work. So that's the second institutional feature of a new kind of economy. Suppose we do that. Like many co-ops. Suppose we're committed to those institutions and we establish them. But we also incorporate the old division of labor, corporate division of labor. What happens? Well, the first problem is what the hell is the corporate division of labor? You could go through 17 years of economics training and not be able to answer the question, because economics training is about rationalizing the system and not understanding the system. So, what is a corporate division of labor? And a job is a whole bunch of tasks, responsibilities, etc. That's going to be true in any economy. It's just true by definition. So, a corporate division of labor must be combining tasks together in some very specific and special way. What's the way? Here's the way. We combine a whole bunch of tasks which have overwhelmingly as their sort of feature that they are empowering. That the doing of the tasks conveys to the person who are doing them information about the operation, social skills that are relevant to expressing oneself, to manifesting preference, to making decisions, confidence, energy, etc. And that's about 20% of the jobs. Turns out that's what it is in a developed economy. 80% of the workforce, on the other hand, gets an array of tasks in their job which are basically tedious, boring, obedient. Right? Their job tends to diminish their confidence, diminish their skills, reduce their knowledge, and exhaust them. So that's the split that the corporate division of labor establishes, right? Inside capitalism, but also elsewhere. So we've created our workplace, we have our council, we have our self-management, we have our equitable remuneration, and we adopt a corporate division of labor, and the 20% over there have all the empowering work, and the 80% have the rote and tedious and obedient work. What happens in the Workers' Council? Who sets the agenda? Who provides the information? Who argues? Who is animated? And who's asleep? The 20% dominate the show because their conditions and what they do each day prepare them to do that. Give them the information, the skills, the energy, everything to do it. The 80% of us just want to go home. We're exhausted, we're beat, we have no information to contribute, we have, etc., etc. So we want to go home. I would argue that what happens is even though we're committed to self-management, and even though we're committed to equitable remuneration, it disappears. And the reason it disappears is because over time, the 80% do go home. And the 20% decide to change the income distribution and to enshrine themselves. And when they do that, remember, before that happened, the 80% were getting more income. We were remunerating duration, intensity, and onerousness of work. And you were the ones working on the assembly lines, and they were the ones working in the air-conditioned office, and you were earning more. But as time goes on, that disappears. And when they change it, when they go back to the old ways, what do they tell themselves? Do they say to themselves, ha ha ha, I'm going to rip off the 80%? No. They say, I'm better, I'm smarter, I'm more important, I deserve more. Even beyond that, they say, you know what, I'm doing the 80% a favor. Because the 80% wouldn't know what to do with the money. They wouldn't be able to spend it well. They have no taste. They have no preferences. They just, right? And so they would feel like they're saving you from the difficult task of trying to figure out what to do with the higher pay. Just, you should have the amount that is commensurate to, your diminished capacity. Of course, your diminished capacity in their view is inherent, but in reality, it's a product of a division of labor and of an educational system that prepares for that division of labor. So if this is true, and this is what it means to understand an institution, if it's true, then a corporate division of labor subverts the self-management that we sought. It subverts the equity that we sought. With all the goodwill in the world, and this happens in co-ops all the time, our desire for self-management, our desire for equity, sincere as it is irrelevant if we adopt an institution which obliterates it. So we need to get rid of the corporate division of labor. So what do? How do you get rid of that? Suppose I said to you that the 20% dominate the workplace because they have a monopoly on guns. And I said, what do you do about it? It wouldn't be that complicated. You'd immediately realize you either get rid of the guns or you distribute them among everybody. Right? What else could you do? So if I say to you that the corporate division of labor yields power to them and wealth to them and a class division between them and you, right? A class division which is taking a class that exists under capitalism between labor and capital and elevating it to the new ruling position, having gotten rid of the owners. A class that gets its power and gets its wealth and gets its status from a monopoly on empowering work instead of a monopoly on guns. The response should be, we either have to get rid of empowering work, which is ludicrous, right? That doesn't make any sense at all, or we have to distribute it. The third institution of participatory economics is balanced job complex.